Okay, yes, it's true. I'll admit it. Without a doubt, hands down, no questions asked, there is a single game that will take up most of my mental bandwidth for this entire month. Doesn't matter, nevertheless, as usual, there are still tons of great looking games releasing. So here today, we are back once more with our monthly preview of what's to come. What are some of the best looking games on the horizon? The best new games for you to keep an eye on, this one for June 2023. Let's jump into it. Built on Capcom's RE engine, Street Fighter VI is said to be ushering in a new era for fighting games. The game will span across 3 distinct modes, including World Tour, Fighting Ground, and the Battle Hub. World Tour is an immersive single-player story mode where you'll explore Metro City as well as other locations, meeting masters who will take you under their wing and teach you different styles and techniques. Fighting Ground is where you can engage with Street Fighter VI's highly evolved combat system with 3 distinct control types: classic, modern, and dynamic. It's also got real-time commentary features that bring a level of hype to competition, if not a little bit weird at times, and with some easy-to-understand explanations about your gameplay, helping you improve and get better. And then there's the Battle Hub, which is like one of the core modes in Street Fighter VI, one of the big new things where players can just hang out. You'll have your avatar that you make, and you'll check out cabinets on the Battle Hub floor, playing against other players. You can even head over to the Game Center to enjoy some of Capcom's classic arcade games. The game will be launching with 18 fighters. You'll play new characters as well as fan favorites like Ryu, Chun-Li, Luke, Jamie, Kimberly, and more, each character featuring new redesigns and cinematic specials. The review embargo for this game lifted just a couple of days ago, and it's looking real good. Currently sitting at a score of 92 on OpenCritic with 98% recommendation. Pretty much everyone is recommending this game, so it looks like if you enjoy fighting games, this is certainly a fighting game that's looking pretty good. Now, there's actually a demo available as well where you can check out the beginning of World Tour and some select modes in the Fighting Ground. And then the avatar that you make here in this demo can actually carry over into the full version of the game if you care to use it. Street Fighter VI will be launching on June 2nd for $59.99 and is coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Before we move into the next game, I want to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Undawn. This is an open world PvPvE survival game where you explore a vast post-apocalyptic world with deadly environments and full of terrifying creatures. The game can be played solo or with friends. As you build up your own settlement, you'll be able to craft, upgrade your gear, and develop the skills necessary to survive. You'll start out by creating a character. There is a robust character customization thing. You can basically make whatever you like, and then you'll set off to explore this huge seamless map filled with distinct terrains and abandoned cities. You'll discover things like interactive environmental elements, embattled strongholds, and the dynamic weekly events to participate in. You can build up your own base of operations as well. They've got this free build system, and then as you play, you'll come across other survivors and then have the option of teaming up together to trek out into harsh environments, battle hostile player factions, and raid against monstrous creatures for loot. You can craft, trade, and upgrade your arsenal of weapons, armor, and survival gear to give you the edge for your battles in this post-apocalyptic world. If you are interested in checking out Undawn, it will be releasing on June 15th. You can pre-register using my link in the description below. Now moving on to the next game in this month's list, it is Amnesia: The Bunker, the latest first-person horror title from Frictional Games, creators of Soma, and then of course the Amnesia series. In this latest installment, you find yourself left alone in a desolate World War I bunker with only a single bullet and a whole lot of oppressing terrors lurking about in the dark. Besides your revolver gun, we've also got this noisy dynamo flashlight to help navigate around. We'll be scavenging for what few scarce supplies are available and using those to craft as we go along the way, all the while being hunted by this ever-present dynamic threat that can react to each of our moves and sounds. The game features a lot of randomization that results in some unpredictable enemy behaviors that'll keep you on your toes, a semi-open world to explore with a variety of ways for you to experiment as you make your way through. They've really ramped up the tactile and physics-based interactions in the game to make everything feel a lot more realistic and alive, and there are multiple solutions to many of the game's problems, resulting in a very non-linear experience. Now, this was actually on last month's list as it was supposed to originally come out on May the 23rd. However, it got delayed a couple of weeks due to some technical issues that they were running into that apparently were difficult for the developers to identify and replicate. Seemingly, those have been ironed out, and so now the game is currently planning to launch on May 23rd, coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Also, there is a demo available on Steam, letting you try it out before you buy it. Loving this trend of seeing demos for a lot of different games. Absolutely something I like to see more of going forward. If somehow you hadn't heard, or if you've not watched a single one of my videos for the past month, yes, Diablo 4 is finally releasing, and I am incredibly pumped. I recently did a full review of the game after playing for over 100 hours, and while I do have critiques, overall, I love my time with it. I am very much so looking forward to playing the full release at launch. If you still don't know much about the game, here are the cliff notes. This is the latest installment in Blizzard's long-running Diablo franchise. Things have changed a bit as they've mixed things up, turning it into an open-world ARPG, while also including many features similar to a lot of MMOs. The game will be releasing with 5 classes to choose from. There's an in-depth character customization if you want to tune how you look, although it's a top-down game, so you're not going to see it much, but you do see it in cutscenes, which is actually a pretty cool thing they've done if you happen to watch the cutscenes. The 5 classes you can choose from are the Barbarian, Druid, Rogue, Sorcerer, and Necro. If you want to be OP in the end game, looks like Barb and Druid are the choice. If you want to be cool, Rogue, Sorc, and Necro. Yeah, it's the cool kids club. We suck. I'm sorry. There's a full story campaign with cinematics. This is going to last you anywhere between 10 to 15 hours if you choose to go quickly. However, it can take anywhere from like 50 up to 100 hours, honestly, depending on how you approach it. And this is largely due to the fact that the game features a massive open world with tons of quests, points of interest, all sorts of events to participate in, world bosses, collectibles. Some of the areas even have open world PvP, and the campaign just weaves throughout that. So you could beeline the campaign, yes, but if you do the campaign in conjunction with just like playing the game and exploring around, probably hundreds of hours worth of content, honestly. Like, legitimately, it's such a large space. There's so much to do. You could spend a lot of time with the game before you get anywhere near the end of the campaign. Or, like I said, you could beeline it and finish it in 10 hours. Frankly, it's really up to you. The MMO-light nature means that you will be seeing other players. This will be mostly in town, but also while doing large-scale group events. There are over 120 unique dungeons. Each of them reward their own aspect, which is basically legendary powers you can put on your gear. And then also the dungeon layouts are procedurally placed, so that'll always change up how they look when you go in them. And then the end game loop, like what it is you're doing at end game, you are farming nightmare dungeons, which are just harder versions of the regular dungeons with new unique affixes. You're doing Hell Tides, which are just basically events that take over entire zones of the world, providing you with new forms to hunt for gear. These Whispers, the tree system, where it's like basically quest that will rotate, incentivizing you to push around to different parts of the world, completing objectives, turning it in for experience and rewards. Fields of Hatred is the PvP. You'll farm the world bosses, and then you do the capstone dungeons with the big pinnacle activity, supposedly being a level 100 capstone boss, the final thing that you'll do as you continue to progress towards level 100 and gear yourself up. And yeah, it's also a live service game, so that means there is microtransactions, a cash shop. We're going to be seeing Season 1 roll out mid-July. This will include some new additions to the game. We haven't gotten the specifics yet, but we should be sometime shortly after release, and that will include a battle pass as well, which we can spend some money because, hey, that's how live service games work. Yeah, I've spent over 100 hours with the game already. It's not even out yet, and I really enjoy it. I cannot wait to dive in at launch. Speaking of which, the game will be officially launching on the 6th of June. Base entry level price is $70. It goes up to $90 or $100 if you want to buy into the early access, in which case, if you do, you can start playing on June the 1st or June 2nd. It just depends on where your time zone is located. But yeah, Diablo 4, that's what I'll be doing for most of this month, but there's still some more great games to talk about, so let's move on. Layers of Fear is a psychological horror where you play through 3 different stories of craft-obsessed protagonists whose sanity crumbles and cracks just like an old oil painting on the canvas. That's just some description from the game. Layers of Fear is what the developers are calling the definitive way to experience the franchise, and that is because it includes both Layers of Fear and Layers of Fear 2, as well as all of the DLCs for both games and a never-before-told story of the writer, which ties everything together. Some game features include many unsettling environments as you explore and solve strange puzzles, the 3 different stories of the painter, actor, and writer, all interwoven to create a new immersive experience. There's some brand new core mechanics introduced into Layers of Fear, as well as its sequel, and some additional features just blending everything seamlessly together, making them kind of feel like one cohesive experience. And the games have been built from the ground up, rebuilt on Unreal Engine 5, supporting ray tracing, HDR, and 4K resolution with the new Lumen system as well, making some pretty looking lighting, some pretty scary lighting, pretty scary. Layers of Fear launches on June 15th. It's coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Aliens Dark Descent. This is a squad-based single-player action game set in the iconic Aliens franchise. You will command a squad of hardened colonial marines, leading them in real-time combat against iconic xenomorphs, rogue operatives, and in a host of horrifying new creatures as well. There's large open levels that we'll navigate through, moving our team tactically, dispatching orders, and clearing out groups of enemies. We're able to forge our own paths through the play space, uncovering shortcuts, creating temporary safe zones, and setting up things like motion trackers, all within this persistent world where our actions actually impact those play levels forever. You'll lead your squad and change their tactics from mission to mission as you try to carefully manage your soldiers' health, the resources, their sanity, all in the service of trying to avoid permanent losses, because there is permadeath for your squad members. Other features include the ability to customize your squad with a selection of different classes. You'll level up and specialize them with unique abilities, weapons, armor, and perks. And this whole thing takes you through a new original alien story against iconic xenomorph creatures ranging from facehuggers to praetorians, alien queens, and many more. Aliens Dark Descent will be launching on June 20th, coming to PC, PlayStation, and Xbox for $39.99. Final Fantasy 16, you probably didn't need me to tell you about this game, but I will anyways. This is the first fully fledged action RPG in the mainline Final Fantasy series. This time around, it leans heavily into the classical fantasy setting, which unsurprisingly also features a big emphasis on story and narrative. Playing as Clive Rosefield, you are on a mission to free mankind using your iconic powers to overcome every obstacle. The game is going to feature the segmented open environments, so don't think open world, but think like open spaces that you explore. And again, this is all within this like classical medieval fantasy setting. The action combat system that mixes both melee and magic attacks and really looks to be some of the best action combat or best combat in general that I've seen from a Final Fantasy game. Pretty impressive. A lot of what you expect from melee action combat games with the mix of magic, properly timed attacks, multiple different types of attacks, dodges, parries, things like that. You'll use this against traditional enemies, but also some of these over-the-top cinematic large-scale boss fights. They've got character progression via leveling and gear, and then the icon battles, which is just having you basically take control of these massive fantasy creatures, in which you'll use to battle other massive fantasy creatures. And of course, you should expect loads and loads of storytelling and cutscenes. I've heard it is very cutscene heavy to the point where some people have complained about it, but you know what? From everything I've ever heard, that's just Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy 14 is said to have like 1,000 hours of cutscene story, like it's craziness. So yes, cutscenes and story. It is a Final Fantasy game. That's what you'll be getting. FF16 releases on June 22nd, coming to PS5 for $69.99. If it came anywhere else, I'd probably be playing it. I'm not like I only play on PC, but I only play on PC. It's not because I'm like, oh, consoles. It's because I'm like, I got my PC. Just release it on my PC. I will buy the game and I will play it here. I'm not gonna buy a PS5. I'm so close to PS6 probably, right? So I'll just wait. Wayfinder. This is an upcoming action combat character-based MMO. For sake of comparison, it's kind of like they took the gameplay loop, character, and progression systems of Warframe, combined that with some MMO light open zone structure that kind of reminds me of Destiny, and topped it all off with a cartoony visual style similar to the likes of WildStar, Fable, or World of Warcraft. I've actually played a lot of this game, checking out some of the early betas, and I intend to play more when it releases later this month. I would say probably its strongest attribute is a very well executed combat system. It's got action combat that just feels very good. At its core, it is fun to play, and from what I saw early on, looks to have some interesting encounter variety and design. Some features of the game include those open zones, sort of like Destiny, big play spaces for you to explore, lots of verticality, different points of interest, groups of enemies all over the place. There's public events, plenty of side quests and collectibles that you use to fuel progression. The MMO light nature means you'll see players all around the world as they run around doing other stuff in the zone that you're exploring. Big focus is on these procedural dungeons. They basically take the tile sets and rearrange their layouts. It's actually very reminiscent to what Warframe did with their sort of dungeon system. They've got mutations to further mix things up, and basically grinding the dungeons is what you'll probably spend most of your playtime doing, as this is where you go to farm resources, currency, and loot, everything to progress your account and your character. Speaking of which, the game features characters and not classes, so there are 6 distinct characters. They've got their own names, they fill distinct roles, and they have 4 default abilities. Those will never change. You can like modify them, but the 4 abilities of a character are their 4 abilities, as well as some passives. The real thing that you are picking from is the weapon, because any character can use any weapon in the game, and the weapon not only determines like your attack pattern, melee or ranged or caster, but it also has a unique ability attached to it, and that acts as your 5th active ability. And there are tons of progression systems. This is a game that's going to be all about playing a lot, grinding things up, you'll upgrade your character, upgrade your weapons. There are accessories, there are echoes, which are like powerful gems to enhance gear, but also add ability modifiers. There's also an affinity system, adding further levels of progression. Wayfinder was actually supposed to release last month. It got delayed and now is set to enter Steam Early Access at some point in June. No exact date at the moment, but sometime I think in the mid to later half seems likely. It is going to be free to play with cosmetic microtransactions, and it is coming to PC. Okay, so those are the big heavy hitters, the main part of the list. Let's now move into the honorable mentions. On June 1st, we've got Killer Frequency, a first-person 80s horror adventure that puts you in the shoes of Forrest Nash, a late-night radio host whose callers are being stalked by a mysterious killer. It features real-time decisions and puzzle solving, a fully voice-acted story campaign with a retro soundtrack, and genuine 1980s aesthetic. On June 8th, we've got Riders Republic. It's coming to Steam. This is that open-world multiplayer extreme sports game with bikes and skis and snowboards and wingsuits, all in a big open world that you just go around doing tricks and jumps and going real fast in. I liked the game well enough. I kind of got mediocre reception, but if you like extreme sports, it's not like you got a lot of options out there. And Riders Republic, I had a decently fun time for some 30-40 hours. On June 9th, we've got Greyhill Incident, a story-driven survival horror game about a classic alien invasion. This takes place in the early 90s. We got 80s and 90s throwbacks this month. That's cool. Solve puzzles and meet other neighbors as you fight to survive. You'll sneak through these open areas of the neighborhood that has been invaded by aliens and investigate houses and barns as you search for ammo and other useful items to fend back the alien invaders. And do you send them back to their home planet? I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. Lastly, on June 14th, Oblivion Override is this raw, fast-paced 2D action game that offers challenging combat, they say, with some platform gameplay. There are over 23 distinct melee weapons, each with their own style, moveset, and traits, and you have 2 characters to choose from. Each of them come with 3 exclusive abilities that serve as a foundation for builds, allowing you to adapt and evolve from there to fit your own playstyle in conjunction with your weapons. Looks pretty neat. With that, that'll do it for this month. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, a bulk of my time this month is without a doubt going to be taken up by Diablo 4. I do intend for sure to check out Wayfinder. I would check out Final Fantasy 16 if it were coming to the PC. Aliens Dark Descent seems cool. So does Layers of Fear, but I just don't know that I'm going to have time for either of those. Diablo 4 and Wayfinder. We'll see if I can squeeze anything else in between. That's just me personally. What are you guys playing this month? That's a fun thing, right? Do engagement in the section below, in the comment section below. It's great for YouTube. I heard Albie's heard a noise of the dogs out here. All right, that does it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the vid. I'll see you next time. Take it easy, guys.